So it's a long time already, but a lot of great
All
things
right,
have
my friends,
happened,
thanks
and then we
for
had a lot
joining
of
me.
bad
J.R.
things
Dukes
happen the
here. We
last
are
3 years. A
live
lot of
at
very
a
bad
speech
things,
in Iowa
but
by
I
former
was very
President Donald
honored
Trump. Let's
by
go ahead and listen in.
there's a special feeling you have for some people, when that happens, and I have that special feeling from him. He's a great person, and he loves this state very much, does a great job. Today, I'm also proud to announce that our campaign has been endorsed by pastors and faith leaders in every single one of the 99 counties. That's almost, I think, a first. Thank you very much. God is with us. I think so, right? Thank you very much. These are great people. That's a great honor. I think it's the first, too. All 99 counties. The stakes for this election could not be higher under crooked Joe Biden. Our borders, if you noticed, and I'm sure nobody's noticed, our borders have been erased. They've been obliterated. We have people coming in, millions and millions of people coming in. They're coming in from prisons. They're coming in from mental institutions. They're terrorists. Millions of people are coming in that shouldn't be here. If you look at the world's, not just the 3 or 4 nations that we think about, whether it's Mexico or any one of the nations. You could also, by the way, we also have a northern border that's not exactly doing too well. But if you look, Honduras, El Salvador, any one of these nations, it's not them, it's everybody all over the world. They caught prisoners the other day from the Congo. When I say caught, they catch them and they release them. We used to catch them and release them into Mexico. Do you remember? We released them into Mexico. It was called catch and release into Mexico. And they gave that up. You think that was easy to get from Mexico? No, but they did it. They did it. They did it very gladly. We didn't have to pay. Now they want billions of dollars to help us with this problem. And with me, they never even asked for billions of dollars. I said, you're going to pay billions of dollars if you don't help us with this problem. But all over the world, we're talking about, not just the countries near us or the countries only in South America. They do. They come from the Congo. They come from Africa. They come from Asia. Many people from China. They happen to be about the age of this gentleman right here, around 20 for perfect age. In his early 20s, just perfect for the military, isn't it, huh? 27,000 people from China, all males, all between 20 and 25. Perfect for the military. I wonder what that's all about. So it's a pretty scary thing. We have them coming in from Russia, the same thing. They all seem to be between 19 and 24 or 25. I wonder why that is. We're gonna be paying a price, but we'll take care of it. If we get in, we're gonna be taking care of it. We're gonna have no choice but to take care of it. We're not gonna have a country. But our middle class is being crushed by Biden's crippling inflation. The inflation has been the worst that we've ever had. They say 72 years, sir. Be accurate. I say, I think it's the worst we've ever had. There's never been anything like this. Food prices have tripled, and every single thing you do, the energy prices, look at what's happened to energy. Violent criminals are running wild in Democrat-run cities, while law enforcement has been weaponized against Christians and conservatives and people of faith. It's weaponized against Christians. It's really weaponized. I don't know how many Catholics are in the room, maybe not that many here. Are they? Well, what are we doing with the Catholics? I mean, they're persecuting Catholics, and then the Catholics, it's 50-50 between Catholics and us. Trump. 50-50. And I say, it's amazing. I got a call from the Cardinal, New York, a very good man. And he said, sir, this was during the pandemic. He said, sir, we need billions of dollars to help us with our education, our schools. We're losing a fortune. And I got him the money. It was very important to get it because they do a tremendous service and they have great schools, but they were hurting badly during that. And I was able to get him the money. And then I look at the vote. It's like 50-50. And I say, why? But now they are persecuting Catholics in particular. I don't know what's going on with the Catholics. You guys are Catholic. What's going on with Catholics? Why are they doing this with Catholics? Something's happening. But they're doing it with Christians, and they're doing it with parents, and they're doing it with a lot of people. And you explain that one. Let's go and get the parents at the school board meetings, right? It's ridiculous. But we have wars in Europe. We have war in the Middle East. And China is threatening Taiwan. Iran is inches away from a nuclear bomb. They're going to have a nuclear bomb, they say, in 34 days. And when we were in charge. Iran was broke. Iran had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They were broke. Now they're very rich. They have $250 billion, they say, not including the $6 billion they got for a hostage trade. We got 5 and they got 5. I said, all right, that's good. That's better than they usually do. Usually, you know, we gave up the king of terror. You know, last with the basketball player, Brittany Griner. We gave up the greatest purchaser of military arms and equipment and very deadly equipment in the history of the world, they say. He was called the Phantom of Death. So they got him, and we got Brittany. And that was a tough trade. That was a tough trade. But, you know, at least she's standing now for the national anthem, I think. But she didn't stand too much. She always wanted to tie her sneakers during the national anthem. I didn't like that. I didn't like it. That was the time when she heard the national anthem, that meant it was time for her to tie up her sneakers. I don't like that. But our military has gone woke, and we're teetering on the edge of World War III. We've never been closer than we are right now to World War III. There's only one candidate in this race who is going to be up to the task of saving America from every single Biden disaster starting on day one. Number one, I know the players on the other side, and they always respected your country. I don't want to say they respected me, but boy, did they respect this country when I was in charge. They respected us like they've never respected us, right? You wouldn't have had Ukraine. You wouldn't have had Israel being attacked. Russia wouldn't be attacking Ukraine, but you wouldn't have had the attack on Israel. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had any of this stuff. You wouldn't have China longing to go into Taiwan. You know, they're just waiting for the right moment. They wouldn't even talk about it. They weren't even talking about it. And they won't be, I promise you that. But with your vote in these caucuses, we're going to finish the job, and we're going to get it done, and we're going to actually be stronger than ever before. It's hard to believe because you see the damage that's been done. No president has ever, I often say you can take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country, you can add them up, put them together, and they haven't done the damage that Joe Biden's done to this country. What he's done to this country is unthinkable. Biden's record is an unbroken streak of weakness, incompetence, corruption, and failure. Other than that, he's doing quite well, isn't he, don't you? That's a hell of a list. That's a hell of a list, right? That's why Crooked Joe is staging his pathetic fear-mongering campaign event in Pennsylvania today. Did you see him? He was stuttering through the whole thing. He's going to, he's a threat to democracy. They've weaponized government. He's saying, I'm a threat to democracy. He's a threat to democracy. Wow. Okay. Couldn't read the word. He's a threat to democracy. You know how bad the press is? You know what they do? They take me saying that like that. And they say, Trump couldn't say the word democracy. Look. No, that's what they do. They're so bad. You know, I don't know if you saw it. I was on Sean Hannity, a good guy, really good guy, right? And we did a town hall. And he says, tell us, you're not going to be a dictator, right? I said, Sean, I'm going to be a dictator for one day, for drilling and for closing the border. And after that, I'm not going to be a dictator. So remember the way I said, I'm going to be a dictator for one day, for those two things, and then after that, I'm not going to be. So I said, I'm going to be a dictator for one day, for drilling, right? For drilling, and then, so what do they do? What do they do? We say drilling and the border. Then I go, and then after that, I'm not going to be a dictator, sure, one day. So they have me on the news all over the place. I'm going to be a dictator, cut. Did you see that? This is the fake news media. They have the first part, I'm going to be a dictator, cut. And they had to cut it fast because I kept it going fast because I know exactly what they do. They had me the other day, I was imitating Biden because he can't walk off a stage, right? You know, he can never find the exit, so they have me turning around and looking for them. I mean, these stages have a lot of stairs on them. Some of them have 4 or 5 stairs, and he did. He had like so many stairs, he couldn't find it. And they showed me that I couldn't find the way off the stage. In other words, they said he couldn't find the way off the stage. And it's just terrible. They're so bad. You guys are so dishonest. You're so pathetic. That's why they're all going out of business, I'll tell you. They are just so pathetic. And you know, it's so important. Having an honest media is so important. But they just aren't. And it's a lot of times what they don't say. It's not only what they say, it's what they don't say. But so I have to be very careful with sarcasm because I'm a little sarcastic sometimes, and you say something, and everybody there is laughing, having a good time, but they put it on as though you mean it, you know. It's so you can't have any fun during these rather terrible times if you think about it. Because Biden, I mean, if you take a look at what he's doing on the border, or inflation, or our military, that horrible day in Afghanistan, you look at what he's done with energy, all throughout the world, we're an embarrassment as a country. We've become an embarrassment as a country. The only reason Biden is at Valley Forge abusing George Washington's legacy, I mean, he's abusing Washington's legacy, and he never sticks up for Washington. You know, they've taken the name George Washington off many schools and many different, can you believe it? The name George Washington is coming down from many schools, many in California, and he ought to stop that. But it's a legacy it's really a slander and a horrible statement he's making to 75 million Americans. That's what they say. It's much more than that. You saw the numbers that came out yesterday on the election. Everybody saw those numbers. They were released. The fake news doesn't want to talk about them. But it's a disgrace what happened in 2020. It's a disgrace, and everybody knows it. I think they have 81% of the people understand that. But he knows he can't show his face at the southwest border or in East Palestine, Ohio, where I love those people. They were great people. I went there early when they had that really bad situation. And he went to the auto workers' factories. He's given away our auto business to China, mostly to China. You could sit down if you want. Go ahead. Go ahead. See, I'm not kidding with those people that sit and you can't stand up in the front, right? But thank you very much. But, you know, people are waiting for 3-4 days in these days. That's cold out there. That's a long wait, right? It's pretty cold out there. I said, where's my coat? I had to walk 15 feet from the car to the... I said, do you have a coat? And these people are waiting for 3 days. So that's good. That means you're hardy. You're hardy people. You're strong people. Thank you. Thank you very much. But if you take a look, Crooked Joe cannot talk about a single issue that matters to hardworking Americans because he's failed you and he's betrayed us on every single issue. And on policy, he's the worst ever. And people have known that for a long time. Secretary of States have said he doesn't know what he's doing. Obama said it. A lot of people said it. But he doesn't know what he's doing. You look at what's happening in the Middle East. You look at what's going on with Ukraine. He doesn't know what he's doing. Biden and the radical left Democrats lie to us because they know that Americans can't stand the truth about them because they know how badly they're doing. They are doing so badly. You know, they start off with a base because people said, a friend of mine called up, we're leading by 11 in a number of places. Now, 11's a lot, but a friend of mine called up, how come you're only leading by 11? This guy can't put 2 sentences together. I said, well, they start off with a base like about 39. He's at 38, so that's interesting. It's hard to be at 38 as a Democrat. But Republicans have to do it the old-fashioned way. We have to earn every one of them. But they have a base. I won't exactly tell you what that base is, but we all know what that base is. They have certain people that are going to vote Democrat almost no matter what. But I'll tell you, the union part of that base is coming to us. The union part. Can also tell you another. The Hispanic part is coming to us at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We're leading with Hispanics. That's never happened before. And African American is coming to us at a level that I don't think any Republican has seen because they understand that this man is not capable. He's not a capable person. I mean, if you had a store and you wanted to take a week off, you wouldn't put him in charge of the store. No, you wouldn't. Would you trust him to run your store? I don't think anybody would. That's a little question. It's a little, thing. If you have a store, would you trust the President of the United States to run your store? He couldn't do it. This election is our last chance to save America. Very important. The battle begins in Iowa on January 15th, and Joe Biden's banana republic ends on November 5th, 2024. And I believe, because the stock market's doing okay for the last 6 months, but I believe the reason is because we're leading in all the polls. I think if we weren't, the stock market would be going down at a level that you haven't seen. And I think if we don't win, I think you're going to end up in a stock market like you had in 1929, not a recession, a depression. I believe that. I have to say it. I really believe you're going to end up in a depression. You take a look at what these people are doing, how they're wasting all this money on the Green New Scam. It's called the Green New Scam. It's horrible. Horrible, horrible. With your help, we're going to bring our country back from disaster. Our country's a disaster. Laughed at all over the world. Since 2016, you and I have been in this battle side by side. I mean, we won twice, and we're going to win a third time. We're going to win by more now, they say. We're going to win by more in terms of November. We're going to win by more than we did even the first two times, and we won nicely. We won very nice. Look, I did get you $28 billion, in all fairness, right? Who the hell else would get you $28 billion from China? The farmers of America. I say the farmers of America are not voting against Trump. They're all smiling like this. They opened us big. Remember I said, here's what you do. We're going to take a little while with China, but we're going to end up winning the negotiation, and we're going to make a great trade deal. You know, I don't even talk about that trade deal. I talk about USMCA. I talk about all the many trade deals I made and redid because you had such crazy deals. I used to say, who makes these deals? They're so bad. But I don't talk about China, but China was probably the biggest of them all. $50 billion they have to buy. They used to buy 10, 12, 50 billion they had to buy. Now, I don't know if they're watching it because I don't think Biden's going to enforce anything because China pays him a lot of money. You know, it gives him a lot of money. So he's a Manchurian candidate. And you know what a Manchurian candidate is? This young gentleman, he doesn't know. You don't want to find out. He's a Manchurian candidate. We took on the entire corrupt system in Washington like no one has ever done before, and together we stood up to the failed establishment, the corrupt media, the deep state, the globalists, the warmongers, the Wall Street special interests, and open border fanatics. I mean, a lot of these Wall Street guys, they know me, they like me, and I see that they're endorsing, like, Nikki Haley, Bird Brain. They're endorsing Nikki Haley, who does not have what it takes, by the way. I'm just telling you, I've spent a lot of time with her. She does not have, I hope you enjoy her, you know, with her little quips. Like, how did the Civil War start? What was the, well, it had to do with government. No, it was slavery. You know, I never questioned her in that. I never wanted to pile on. But you'll find out about Nikki, and you're going to find out that Ron, you got to have a little personality, you know? We took him from practically zero. He begged me for the endorsement. I gave him the endorsement. He was like a rocket ship. One day he was leading, and he won, and then I helped him win the general, and then 4 years later, they said, will you run against the president? And he says, I have no comment. I said, that means he's running. Oh, man, this guy's running. I got him elected. He's going to run against me. So I started hitting him very hard, and a lot of my geniuses backstage get paid a lot of money. Sir, don't go after him. He's a Republican. I said, I don't care if he's a Republican or not. He said he has no comment. I got him elected. But you need a personality still, and there's not a lot of personality there. So, you know, you need a personality to charm foreign leaders. You think President Xi's easy to deal with, and Putin? And you think Kim Jong-un, North Korea, you're going to get into a nuclear war. If Hillary won that election, you would be in a nuclear war. Who knows where you'd be right now? Because nuclear is a level that nobody wants to even think about. And, you know, again, now we have the problem with Iran, and they're going to have it. You know, when I busted up that whole Iran situation, they were supposed to make a deal, but they didn't do anything. They didn't do anything, and now they're going to have a nuclear weapon. They allowed them to sell. I told China, if you buy oil from Iran, you can't do business in the United States. They said, well, we're not going to buy any more oil. Thank you very much. And I said that to many countries, and they were doing literally no business. They were broke. And then Biden came along, took off all those sanctions in one day, and all of a sudden you have, you know, the greatest sponsor of terror anywhere in the world, probably in history, and they're giving money to everybody that wants to blow people up. But we didn't like that. But it is what it is. But they didn't do anything. I took away all of their economic power. And by the way, I wanted to make a good deal for them too. I think everybody would be happy, but they cannot have a nuclear weapon. That was the only thing. The one thing I said, you cannot have. Had that election not been rigged, we would have had a deal with Iran in the first week. In the first week after the election, not even in January, after the election, we would have had a deal with Iran. But they didn't do anything. I terminated the deal, which was not easy to do. And then you were supposed to make a deal. They didn't do that. These people are incompetent, and they're very dangerous for our country. We achieved more than any administration in the history of our country. We fought long and hard to rescue the Republican Party from the likes of Mitt Romney, Karl Rove, this Paul Ryan guy who's the worst. And there's no chance. Remember Paul Ryan, wheelchair off the cliff? Remember this guy? He is bad news, and he works at Fox now. He's on the board of Fox. You think that's good? No wonder Fox has changed. There's no chance we're going to let them claw their way back into power and establishment like Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. You know, the other day they had him on a program, Ron DeSantis. His name is DeSantis. But they had him on a program. Ladies and gentlemen, we're proud to have the governor of Florida, Mr. Ron DeSantis. They said, no, it's DeSantis. That's good branding, right? When they can't even say his name. Governor, yeah, Ron DeSanctimonious, actually. It's, the abbreviated version is Ron DeSantis, right? But he's got a bad seed there, because any guy that would do that, when you get somebody elected, you say, let the president have this time. He'll do a great job. And everybody said we did a great job. Let the president do a great job. And he's young, and he'll take over. But he's a bad seed. He won't be getting my endorsement. I can tell you that. Thank you very much, darling. I like you too. Who said that? Who was it? Thank you. Look at that. You look. Thank you, darling. Got a nice voice, right? I heard that voice. I said, just stand up, please, if you would. Thank you very much. Very beautiful. Our country's dying, and there's no time to waste for your vote or another establishment career politician. We have to straighten out our country. We have to straighten. We got badly hurt when the gift from China poured onto our shores, COVID. You know, the day before that happened, I had John McLaughlin, the great pollster. He was in my office with some other pollsters, and they said, sir, I'll be honest with you, you can't lose. This is the greatest poll numbers I've ever seen. We're a couple of years, 2.5 years in, and they said, you can't lose. If George Washington came back from the dead and Lincoln came back and they teamed up as president and vice president, sir, you'd beat him by a lot. I said, that sounds good. The next day I go into the Oval Office, they say, sir, there's a problem in China. There are a lot of people dying in Wuhan. Remember I said it was the Wuhan lab? I never changed. It was the Wuhan lab. But other people said, oh, it's a cave from 2,000 miles away with bats. Then they blamed France. They blamed Italy. They blamed everybody. It ultimately came back to Wuhan, which is what I said. I never changed. But they said, there's a problem over there. A lot of bodies lying around this particular facility. I knew what the facility was, and I said, that's not good. But who would have ever thought? And we did a phenomenal job. We never got credit for that. We got credit for a great economy. We got a lot of credit too, but we really did a great job in that. Nobody knew what the hell it was. But they said there was nobody that could ever have come even close to us. Look at how the farmers were doing. And by that time, we had a deal with China. We had everything cooking. We made USMCA. Everybody said, you'll never be able to change NAFTA. Remember NAFTA, that horrible, horrible deal, one of the worst trade deals ever made? But a vote for Donald Trump in these caucuses is a vote to secure our border. It's a vote to stop the invasion of millions of people from parts unknown. We don't even know where the hell they come from. They come from parts unknown. It's a vote to rescue our economy, and it's a vote to reclaim our democracy from crooked Joe Biden and the entire criminal class in our nation's capital. They're criminals. What they're doing with voters and what they're doing with the weaponization of the system and elections, what they're doing is incredible. I mean, I've gotten indicted more than Al Capone. Do you know Al Capone, Scarface, you know? He had a scar from here to here, and he didn't get it, I always say, playing tiddlywinks, right? He was a rather rough guy. And if he had dinner with you, if he didn't like the way you smiled, they'd shoot you the next day. You'd get killed, probably the next night. But you'd be gone. He got indicted less than me. I got indicted because I said we had a rigged election. And it turned out I was right. It was rigged much worse than anybody thought. But unlike every other candidate in this race with me, you know, in your heart that I will always put America first. We put America first, and with God's help, our job will get done, and it'll get done like it did before. We did more. I mean, we rebuilt our military. We got the biggest tax cuts in history. We got the biggest regulation cuts in history. Right to try. Hopefully nobody in this room needs it. But, you know, we have space age. We have the greatest doctors and laboratories in the world, and people couldn't use it. If they were sick, they'd go to Asia, they'd go to Europe, they'd go all over the world. If they had money, if they didn't have money, they'd go home and they'd die. I got right to try so that we could take something that wouldn't be approved for 5 or 6 years by the FDA. I moved that up too, by the way. That used to be 12 years. We cut it down in half. And it was going further. But right to try gave you the right to sign a very quick document and get whatever it is out there. You know, they used to say, "You can't do that, sir. There's great liability. Supposing they die." I say, they're terminal. They're terminal. Only terminal. You have to be very, very sick. People that are very sick that you wouldn't believe the results. The results are thousands and thousands of people are living right now. You know, the laboratories didn't want it because a lot of people would die, and they didn't want that in the record. Doctors didn't want it. Our country didn't want it because we didn't want the liability. And they signed something saying you have no liability whatsoever. Nobody has any liability, but we got to do it. They're terminally ill. These are terminally ill people, and we are saving thousands of lives. And it sort of worked out the opposite for some of these great laboratories, because instead of having liability, they're showing it really works, because you're bringing people that were going to be dead very soon, and you're bringing them back to life. And, you know, some of the stuff that they've done is incredible. So I'm very honored by that. They've been trying to get that for 54 years, and they didn't get it, but I got it. And we had to get it through Congress, too. Thank you. And that had to go through Congress. You know, much of it, you hear about all these executive orders, but a lot of the stuff to get it done and get it done right has to go through Congress. And we got that through Congress. It was a great victory. And victories cannot come soon enough for our country. As we speak, the last remnants of our open and broken border are crumbling into rubble as millions and millions of people storm into the United States in the largest illegal mass migration in the history of the world. There's never been a country in the world, third world country, banana republic, there's never been anything like what you're watching on television. And they pretend like they've got it under control. Last month, they set a record. Hundreds of thousands of people, bigger than practically any city in your great state. I think bigger just about than any city came in just last month. And numbers like nobody, and they pretend like it's under control. It's not under control. It's totally out of control. And part of the reason they want them to come in is, in my opinion, because, look, they're not stupid. Anybody that can cheat on an election like that is not stupid, okay? Because they're professionals at cheating. But anybody that can cheat like that, they're not stupid people. So there's two things, and then a third. Number one, they're stupid. Number two, right? Number two, they hate our country. And number three, they want those people to vote. And that's a bad one. That's the one that scares us most. And I'm telling you, they're signing people. That's what they're doing. And I believe now that that's why they're allowing these people to come in. People that don't speak our language, they're signing them up to vote. And I believe that's why you're having millions of people pour into our country. And it could very well affect the next election. And I believe that's why they're doing it, because they know what they're doing. You know, if they could do as well in running the country, in making deals with other countries so we don't get ripped off every time. Every deal we have is a horrible deal. I mean, Europe is laughing at us. Look at Ukraine. We're in for $200 billion. Europe is in for $20 billion. Why? And Europe is a very similar size. When you add up the countries, very similar to the economy. So they're in for 20 and we're in for 200. When I was doing NAFTA, I said, you know, the NAFTA deal is so unfair. But NATO, you take a look at NATO, every deal is horrible. I haven't seen any deals that are like good deals. And we renegotiated with South Korea, with Japan, with Abe, who was so great. But, you know, what happened to Abe? It was horrible. He was a great gentleman, great man. But we renegotiated the Japanese deal for the farmers and for manufacturers, and it worked out to be really good. We started off with a horrible base because the deal was so one-sided. You know, they sell millions of cars, and I said, Shinzo, let me ask you a question. How many cars are we selling in the middle of Tokyo? How many Chevrolets are we selling in the middle of Tokyo? I don't believe any. That's right. We have none. You know, it's a very one-sided deal. And we changed it around a lot, especially for the farmers, frankly, especially for the farmers. But we changed all of these things around, and we were rocking and rolling. If you look back 10 years, if you look back 5 years, you'd see that there was a statistic that was scary. China was going to overtake us in 2018 or 2019. And we were hitting it so good. And we picked up so much. We left them in the dust. We left them in the dust. They never even came close. And I always say, if we have a smart president, that will never happen. But now we're giving it all back to China, what we're doing. And, you know, he wants to end the tariffs. These tariffs are bringing in billions of dollars that I put on China. No president's ever gotten 10 cents, not 10 cents, and he wants to give it back. So far, he hasn't been able to because it's so much money that he hasn't been able to pull it off. But he would like to give it back, the tariffs. And if they do that, if they do give that back, China will literally take over this country economically. It would be a horrible thing. But you know, putting those tariffs on was not the easiest thing to do, but they paid us hundreds of billions of dollars. And as I say, I always say proudly, and my people say, please don't take Iowa for granted. Don't take Iowa, sir. Please don't take, you can't, because I always say, how the hell do I lose Iowa? I got the farmers of this country, $28 billion. How the hell do I? And they're always saying, right? But they're always saying, sir, please don't. I said, I'll take my chances. Nobody else. Look, Ron DeSanctimonious was against the farmers, and he was against ethanol. Nikki is against farmers. She wanted to decimate Social Security. So did he, by the way. He wanted to move the age up to 70. She wanted to go higher than that. I mean, and these people, one thing about a politician, because I dealt on the other side of politics a lot too. One thing about they always go back to what they originally had. That's their inclination. They always go back to where they originally were. But I was for all of your things, and I was for your ethanol. And ethanol, let me tell you, it's always a battle with ethanol. It's not easy. But I saved ethanol, and they will get rid of it immediately. They're going to get rid of it immediately, I can tell you that. Despite, even though all of a sudden they become ethanol people, you know, this industry is going to give Ron a little party, like 12 people are going to show up because of his stance on ethanol. Tell him to go back a year and a half and take a look at his stance, his real stance. A record 300,000 illegal aliens were detected crossing the border in December alone. That's the largest number in history. That's the biggest number in history. And under the Trump administration, we had the most secure border in the United States in U.S. history 3 years ago. So you went from the most secure border with, by the way, the least number of drugs pouring into our country in 22 years, okay? And that's not acceptable. Look, if you want to stop the drug epidemic into our country, which is killing, in my opinion, 250, 300,000 people. They always say 100. It's not 100. It's much more than that. You know what to do, right? Do you know what to do? He says, vote for Trump. Well, that's another way of saying, yeah, you could say, that's very good. I like that. No, the death penalty for drug dealers. If you do the death penalty, you stop it. You know, a drug dealer, on average, will kill 500 people during his or her lifetime, right? 500 people. When you think of it, that's really bad news. But on average, will kill 500 people during his or her lifetime. And when I went to China and I saw President Xi, I said, do you have a problem with drugs? No, we do not. Oh, why? Quick trial, quick trial. I knew what quick trial meant, right? Quick trial. Unlike our trials that last, 400 years, except if I'm being tried. If I'm being tried, they go quickly. They set records. If I'm being tried for bullshit, they go fast. Mine, I'm setting records. They've never seen in Washington, D.C., they've never seen speed like that. Other guys, they'd be in court for 7 years. Mine gets done like 2 months. Nobody's ever seen. What a two-tiered system of justice we have in this country. It's horrible. It's horrible. But if you want to solve the drug problem, that's what you do. I said, you have no, we don't have any. They used to have a fantastic problem. They used to have a tremendous problem with drugs. It ruined the country, actually. Japan took over China. A smaller nation took over China because they had the opium fields. They had drugs, tremendous drugs, and amount of drugs. And now they don't have drugs. And it's they do it because if they say if you get caught selling drugs, you get the death penalty, and you go quickly. It's a quick trial. And everyone said, well, let's get the hell out of here. The drug dealer said, darling, I think we're going to head to the United States. Let's sell them in the United States. So that's the way, but I'm not sure this country is ready for it. They should be ready for it because they're destroying our country. They're ruining families. Many people in this room, I'm sure, have been greatly affected by drug-addicted kids that would have never happened if you didn't have these drugs pouring in, usually mostly over the southern border. But we had it down to a record low for about 25 years just in what we were doing. We built 561 miles of border wall. You know, I always get a kick out of this because they say, oh, you only built 59 miles. No. If there's a piece of 2x4 laying on the ground that's 40 years old and rotted, but it used to be like to stop a bicycle from coming, whatever. If there's a little piece of steel laying there and it hasn't been painted in 100 years, it used to be there many, many years ago, laying just on the ground flat, nothing else. They consider that a renovation when you build a big monster wall. So they say, no, he only built 58 miles. No, we built 561 miles of wall. And that's why we had the safest border. That, and in all fairness, Mexico giving us 28,000 soldiers worth billions of dollars, by the way, 28,000 soldiers. I went to the president. I said, you have to give us 28,000 soldiers for the border. No, we won't do that. The head of the State Department, who was very much involved with Mexico, said, you'll never get it, sir. We've been trying to get that for years. You'll never get it. I said, no, we'll get it, 100%. And we'll also get remain in Mexico, and we'll also get catch and release. You know what catch and release? They catch them and release them in our country. Well, we got catch and release. We release them in Mexico. We catch them and release them in Mexico. And we got 9 other things that were just as bad. We got 9 other things. You know, your medical component. If you're very sick, you don't come into our country. I'm sorry, you can't come in. You know, we don't want people catching various diseases that were very prevalent and are prevalent right now. So we did a great job. But they said that won't happen. And the chief representative, a very handsome guy, good-looking guy, came in to see me, representing the president of Mexico, who happens to be a great guy. He's a socialist, but you can't have everything, right? But he's a great guy, actually. He's a friend of mine. But I said, you have to do this. But he came over, and I said, here's what we're going to need. I told the person representing, dealing with Mexico from the State Department, I said, here's what you have to do. Give me your top 10 things. Then I went to Border Patrol, Brandon Judd. I went to Tom Homan. Great. These are great people, by the way. And I said, give me your top 10 things that you need. Sir, they'll never do it. They'll do it 100%. The person in the State Department, a woman who was really very good, but she never won a battle with Mexico because they wouldn't do anything, right? Because they don't listen to our people. So I said, no, they'll do everything. Give me the top 10. So I took the top 10 things from everybody, add them up. We took the top 10 things, all tough to get. Like remain in Mexico is tough, right? You don't remain here, you got to take a look at Tijuana. Until Biden came in, he just let everybody flow right into the country. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. But I said, no, we'll get him. So he comes in, I said, listen, we need 28,000 soldiers free of charge. No, we're not doing that. He looked at me like I was crazy. I said, no, you're going to do that, 100%. He goes, I said, we're going to need remain in Mexico. In other words, everybody has to remain in Mexico. They can't come into the United States. They got to remain in your country. And then if we want them, we'll take them. And if we don't want them, they'll go back to their other country. No, we won't do that. Then I said, catch and release. We're going to catch them. We're going to release them in your country. No. I said, no, you'll do it. No, you will. No, sir, you don't understand me. I will not do that. I will not. I said, no. Okay, you ready? 100% you're going to do it. He didn't know what was going on. He didn't understand it. He said, I won't do it. I said, you're going to do it. And here's the story. If you don't do it, I have legislation in front of me that I had the right to sign. I'm going to tax all of the cars that you stole from our country when you manufacture them. They stole 32% of the manufacturing ability of the United States over the years, not through me, before me. Every car coming across and every product coming across from Mexico into the United States is going to have a tariff of 25% on it. And that's more money than all of this stuff that we're talking about put together. And he said, he's going like this. Can't breathe, you know. It's like a little choke going on. But he said, may I have a few minutes to make a phone call? I said, let me guess, you're calling the president, right? Give him my regards, but try and be back within 5 minutes. He comes back within 5 minutes. He said, sir, it would be a great honor to supply you with 28,000 soldiers. It would be a great honor to have all these people, including the criminals, remain in Mexico. We would love to have that. That's just what we want. That's just what we need. Gave me every single thing. And that person in the State Department, a really nice woman, but she wasn't much of a negotiator, frankly. She said, I've never seen anything like it. I've been here for 25 years. I've never seen anything. I got every single thing. Then when Biden came in, he gave away almost all of it, right? Gave away all of it. It's crazy. And Ron DeSanctimonious and Nikki Haley and all the rest of the pack will never do what it takes to secure the border. They'll never do what it takes to make our country great again. They're never going to do it. I know them. I know them all very well. They don't have what it takes. Nikki Haley has been in the pocket of the open borders establishment donors her entire career, and she's a globalist, you know. She likes the globe. I like America first. The people in this room like America first. And Nikki Haley's campaign is being funded by Biden donors. Did you know that? Biden donors, because they're trying to get her, like in particular, here we're doing so well, I think they've sort of given up. Do you notice they're sort of like out of here? But in New Hampshire, they have a lot of Biden donors and contributors putting money into her campaign. That tells you, that should be enough to stop her right there. Well, she stopped. Hey, listen, they had a poll last week. It was a classic, just to show you how fake the media is. So the headline was, Haley surges. I said, uh-oh, this is bad. I better read this little thing. So I went up 7 points to 74, okay? I went up 7. She went up 2 points, and Ron DeSanctimonious went down 1. So instead of being down 2 points, she was even with Ron DeSanctimonious now. So the headline, and she was at 10, and he was at 10, either 10 or 11. I was at 72 or 74. And the headline was, Haley surges. That's because it's fake. The media is fake. So anyway, we like these little quips. You think they're on the teleprompter? You think Biden could tell you stories like that? He'd get lost. Can't find his way off the stage. Now think of it. You think he ever goes off teleprompter? He's no good when he's reading the teleprompter. He read it today. He got all confused. He didn't know where the hell he was. He's reading about, he's saying that I'm a threat to democracy, and he had a hard time with it. She opposed my border wall, Nikki. She condemned my strong borders policy, and in 2016, she stabbed the Republican Party in the back by siding with Barack Hussein Obama against a thing called the Trump travel ban. We didn't want to have people from countries that hate us coming into our country. We don't want our shopping centers blown up, if it's okay with you. We don't want our people killed and decimated and bombed and shot and everything else. So, and it passed. It went through the Supreme Court. It just passed. And, you know, we had no terrorism problems in this country, and the whole world didn't have. You know, I got to tell you, because he's a great man. He's actually a great leader. He's a very tough man. He's the toughest man in Europe, probably the toughest leader maybe anywhere. Viktor Orban from Hungary. Anybody hear of him? He's tough. But he's a very good man. But they asked him a question. What would you do if you were President Biden? What would you do? What would you do? Because the whole world is blowing up. Israel, Ukraine, and Russia. The whole Middle East is just ready. It's a counter. It wasn't that way 3 years ago. 3 years ago, everything was good. Iran was not going to do anything. Nobody was. We were getting along with everybody. They knew. North Korea is now acting up again, as you know, Kim Jong-un. But he liked me. The press hates when I say that I like him. They hate it. They say it's terrible. No, it's not a bad thing. You know, he's got a lot of nuclear weapons. It's nice if he likes you a little bit. He wouldn't return Obama's phone calls. He didn't want to even meet with him. But they said, what would you do? And they really said, I mean, Orban was incredible. He said, what I'd do is I'd resign from office immediately, and I'd say, bring Trump in here to run, because when he ran this world, we didn't have problems with Russia, with Ukraine, with Israel, with Iran, with China. We didn't have problems with anybody. They feared him. Now, he said they feared him. You know? He said they feared him. I don't want to say that. That's him saying it, because I don't want to say they feared me, but they respected me, and they respected our country, and they feared our country. But he said they feared him, and they weren't going to mess around. But it's true, we didn't have problems with anything. And we didn't have problems at the border. We had the most secure border we've ever had. Everything was nice. And this guy could have gone, he likes going to the beach. Somebody on his campaign said, you look great in a bathing suit. Now, when what is he, 82 or 81? Like, look, I'm not that far behind, but I'm 100% up here. I feel I'm better than I was 25 years ago. I think I'd know it. I think I'd know it. I really, maybe you know it, but you don't want to know it. That could be also like that. But I think I'd know it, when you say it's great to be in Idaho. Is that where we are? The worst is when he said, it's great to be in Florida, and he was here. There were no palm trees here. Did they have palm trees here? Not too many, right? No, but I think, but he said that. He said when Trump was president, the whole world was safe. There was nobody going to play games. They feared him. He said they feared him, but let's say they respected me, but they feared our country, and there were no problems. And we didn't have any, we had no problems with Islamic people that want to come in and blow the hell out of our cities. We had nothing. Now, I didn't want to say that when I was president, but, we had gotten through 3.5 years, and I really wanted to say it, but I didn't like the idea of saying it, because then the next day something happens. I said, boy, do we look. It happened to them. They would say, well, we're doing fairly well. They weren't doing great, but they were doing fairly. And then Israel was attacked the following day, right? You saw that. They said, well, we're doing pretty well there too, and we've been very nice. Well, they were so nice that it's the worst problem that Israel has had, certainly, probably, possibly ever. We're going to find out pretty soon, because it's moving along rapidly. And the biggest problem is we have no leadership on our side. We have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea what to ask for. We have no leadership on our side. But Viktor Orban, most respected man, probably the toughest man in Europe, maybe beyond Europe, he made that statement. I was very honored by that statement, because I'm only about making our country great, saving our country, and I want to help the world if possible. If possible, we'll help the world. A lot of it you can do with a phone call. I mean, I can tell people on a phone, I can say, you can't do that. You can't do that. I told it to a very nice, good friend of mine, the head of, France. They make nice champagne and wine. And they were going to tax our companies. Our companies were going to be taxed very substantially in France. They were putting a big tax on American companies. And I had my people call up and say, we're not going to allow that to happen. And they didn't care. And my people spent 2 months, they're capable people, but they couldn't do it. And I said, let me do it. And I spoke to Macron. Do you know Macron? He's a nice man. He's actually a nice man. But he's for France, I'm for the USA, and he's from France. And I said, Emmanuel, how are you? Oh, Donald, I am fine. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to talk to you. Thank you very much. You might not like me so much after this call, however. I understand, Emmanuel, that you're going to be taxing American companies doing business in France. Oh, yes. It's that has passed. I'm so sorry to tell you, but that has passed. I said, well, I don't think it's passed. I really don't think it's passed. Or if it has, you can unpass it. Because if you don't take that tax of American, I want to protect American companies. That means you and a lot of people. Why should they tax American companies? I said, if you don't take that tax off, I'm going to tax at 100%. I'm going to tax every bottle of champagne and every bottle of wine that comes into the United States of France. And I know that's a soft spot for them, right? That's like a soft spot. And he goes, no, you cannot do that. That is not fair. I said, that's okay. You got 5 minutes to tell me yes. And after that, I'm sorry. Calls me back in 5 minutes. We have agreed to do that. We are taking off all of the... I did that in about 4 minutes. If you add it totally up. My guys were working on it for 2.5 months and getting nowhere. But you can do a lot of things if you're president. If you know how to do it. If you know how to do it, and I still remain friendly. I mean, you don't have to burn the bridges. I mean, he respects it. They respect that more than some dope that doesn't know what's happening. They respect you more. They almost like you more. They came out, all these guys, they like me. Boris called. He wants to come. They all want to come see me. They like me. And yet there's nobody been tougher, like Russia. They all say, oh, Russia. I ended the Russian pipeline. It was called Nord Stream 2. That was the biggest thing they've ever done. And I ended it. And Biden, his first day in office, approved it and let it be built. And I had it stopped. And Putin would say, you know, they say we're friendly and that you're nice to me. I'd hate like hell to see if you were not nice to me. Because think of it, I ended that. I had tariffs and I had all sorts of things on Russian citizens. But I got along with Putin. That's not a bad thing. But there's nobody, he would tell you, the historians will someday tell you, there's nobody that's been tougher on Russia. And Russia would have never, as we said, would have never, ever in a million years gone into Ukraine. That only started when I left. Once I was out, all of a sudden they start forming. And I thought he was doing it for negotiation purposes, and they could have had a deal, by the way. That could have been a deal. That's a deal that would have been easy to make. And instead of a deal, it's now all those millions, I think. I think the numbers are going to be much greater than you're hearing. You know, when you see that they knocked down 9 buildings in a city in Ukraine, and 2 people were hurt. No. Many people were killed. Many people were killed. I think when you see the real numbers, you're going to see numbers that are shocking, how bad they are. And that's something that would have been easy to do. Even without a deal, he wouldn't have done it, because part of the reason he did it is Biden let energy prices, barrels of oil, go up so high that they made a fortune. So they did it for that because he was making it went over $100 a barrel. And at that, he could